Kellie Finlayson, how are you?
I am okay.
Do
Yeah.
you like Kelly or do you like Kel?
I go with both. I feel like I sign off on an email with Kel to make it less formal. Like if
Mm,
I'm just trying to have I don't know, a friendly or like trying to become friends with a brand or something, for example, because I want to be on first name basis. But I feel like Kellie Finlayson's very professional.
we'll go with Kel today. We'll keep
Sure.
it casual. You mentioned just then, I said, how are you? You said, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paint me a
Because
picture of life right now.
yeah, well, first thing is I'm not a liar, so I wouldn't tell you that I was good if I wasn't. So I feel like okay is probably a pretty good representation of how I am right now. Had a little bit of, I guess, a bit of a complication last week with an incision site from literally 3 years ago. So like a bit of a shock that it happened so long after. So that's put a bit of a spanner in the works in terms of being good. Um, but yeah, in terms of health in general but also just life in general, I feel like I've been better and I've been worse. So I'm okay.
I had a guest on the podcast recently, Kate Reed, who is the founder
Mm,
of Loon. Amazing lady. And she was telling me about a friend of hers who has gone through some particularly challenging stuff with her health. And she
mm.
said, I recently asked her how she's doing, and she said, I'm mixed.
Yeah.
And she's like, I love that as a way of describing it because we're never all good
Yeah.
or all bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like I have days that like nothing has gone wrong and like I feel on top of the world. But like mostly I'm just like pretty average, but doing better than expected, if that makes sense.
mm.
Mm.
Well, better than expected makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
because you were diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer a
Mm.
few years ago now. Was
Yeah.
it 2021?
Yeah. So November 21,
Stage 4 is scary because we
there's
often
no
don't
stage
link,
5.
yeah, we often don't link stage 4 to, I guess when you think of it, I don't picture the way that you're sitting in front of me now, like vibrant, you know,
Mm,
happy, a smile on your face with a functioning life. And I know
mm.
that it's really important for you to thrive regardless.
Yeah.
But talk me through the diagnosis in 2021 and how that played out.
Yeah, so it's funny that you say like the importance of thriving, by the way, because I feel like we can all just survive. Like even people with terminal illnesses can just survive. Like that's literally just opening your eyes in the morning, right? But I feel like the thriving aspect of it and actually still living is the part that I kind of get a kick out of.
Mm.
But anyway, so over 4 years ago now, so my daughter was born end of August 21. So just just shy of being 3 months old when I was like handed the diagnosis, I guess. I didn't get the stage 4 until she was exactly 3 months old, but being told this is what cancer looks like when it's a photo of your insides obviously was quite confronting for a 25-year-old with a very, very fresh baby and like basically the best life ever, essentially. Like everything that I'd ever hoped and dreamed for was like coming true. Like I had the beautiful husband, well, partner at the time. I had this beautiful baby and like I'm biased, I'm allowed to be, but she's beautiful. We've just moved back home to SA to be closer to family so that we had more help. Like life was just going really, really well. And then it was kind of flipped on its head, which I feel like is probably most people's experiences. Like usually something like that comes at a time when you don't expect it, especially at 25. But also at like 80, being told you have cancer is probably going to flip your life on its head. Um, yeah, it's hard to explain now, obviously being so far out of it. Like I've done so much grieving. Learned so many lessons. I've learned so much about myself, but the only word that really like, I guess, sticks when I think of that time is like shock. But it wasn't, I don't know how to explain it. Like it wasn't that shocking in the moment, but like looking back on it, that's all I can think of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I don't know that there is any kind of reasonable way to respond to that kind of diagnosis at especially at that stage of life because I think as someone who's recently married
Mm,
and like you feels like the luckiest person in the world because I have someone I love dearly who loves me
mm,
and my life is great and I'm surrounded by family and great friends and I feel so optimistic and excited about the future. The idea of all of that being thrown into question with just one diagnosis
mm.
is terrifying.
It is, and
And
yeah, it was terrifying is a great word for it, but at the same time, I was so numb that I didn't really feel fear for a really long time. Like I don't know, this weird sense of trust in my medical team, like pretty instantly. Like, the first person that I saw outside of my husband and my child when I was handed that diagnosis was someone that was quite medically inclined, so she could, like, read through the lines of the information, whereas I didn't even bother reading it. So, like, I felt like I had a really good team around me really early on. So I feel like I'm lucky in that sense because I could have spiraled a hell of a lot more.
Why do you think it didn't spiral? Is it, having those people around you, or do you think it's almost a self-protective mechanism to, because you have a job, like you have the most
Mm,
important job in the world now, to be the
mm,
parent of a beautiful newborn baby,
yep,
and that becomes your purpose pretty quickly.
mm.
So do you think that allowed you to actually be somewhat optimistic and, I guess, strong?
Yeah, so in terms of not spiraling, I think it is because, like you said, I put this little girl on this earth. Like, obviously, I was so scared for her to grow up without a parent, but I also never allowed myself to think that that was ever going to be the case.
Mm.
Um, like, this is what I'd always wanted, right? She was all I'd ever wanted. So having her and knowing that if I didn't get through this, her life would be a lot different, kind of gave me the drive to just keep going. But also, that was the only thing I grieved in that moment. Like, I didn't care about my life being put on hold. I mean, I did eventually, but, like, I didn't in that moment. I wanted so badly to give her a sibling, but then being told, "Give her a sibling or be her mum," like, obviously I chose being her mum. So now I have chosen that, literally physically chosen that option. So I made sure that I kept building and getting through each day to be able to be her mum.
So I listened to a podcast that you were on, Olivia's podcast,
Mm.
a few years back, and I heard you mention that, you had been experiencing some symptoms with your stomach that weren't exactly normal for you, and then you decided to go see the doctor, and you were due to have a colonoscopy, but because of big bad COVID that swept through and kind of flipped life on its head,
Honestly.
it was an elective surgery, and you chose to wait 18 months.
Yeah, well, I wish I chose that. I didn't get the option to not choose
Okay.
waiting, essentially. Like, hindsight's a beautiful thing at the same time, though. Like, if I had have had that colonoscopy, I wouldn't have my daughter. So, like, I wouldn't have had the purpose to get through it had have I gotten probably the same diagnosis at that stage anyway. The thing with cancer is, especially the cancer that I have, it had been growing for a really, really long time. The fact that it was big enough to notice means that it had been there for long enough for me to notice, if that makes sense. So it probably would have been a pretty similar outcome at that stage. But, like, 7 years prior to that, when I was going to the doctors being like, "I'm lactose intolerant, I've got IBS, what's going on with me? My gut's cooked, like, I can't stop pooing or I can't poo." That's probably when I wish I was taken more seriously, but also I didn't take myself seriously. So how can I expect the
Mm.
GP to? I don't know, there's so many things that I've, like, reflected on, obviously, and I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong, but had have I known that that wasn't normal and that I can actually, like, push for myself, advocate for myself, then would I still be in this position, if that makes sense?
I get exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
It's interesting because from what I've read, bowel cancer is the most deadly cancer for people between the ages of 25 and 44. And so to me, it sounds as though, most of the cases where you hear people having kind of routine colonoscopies where I guess they would pick up on a stage one
Mm.
diagnosis probably tend to be later in life. But is it fair that or is there any research to suggest that most patients between 25 and 44, who happen to be majority of the listeners of this podcast, don't pick up on it until later stages?
And yes, like, there would be statistics. I don't do the research because it scares me, like,
Yeah.
knowing all of the, I guess, like, 1 in 10, 1 in 55, like, I don't like to know that stuff because I like to be my own person and, like, hit it on how I would hit it on.
Sure.
But in terms of, like, that age group getting a pretty nasty diagnosis, and even after that age group as well, like, being at the 80-year-old, usually they're also stage 4 by the time they find it. It's it's because we don't take ourselves seriously. It's because we get this symptom and we're like, "We're young, we're fit, we're healthy." Why would we push for answers? We don't want a bad result. Do you know what I mean? We don't want to be told that this is not okay or that we have to put our life on hold for 3 years to do treatment. Like, we don't want to be told that, so we don't push for answers. But obviously, being through what I've been through, I now know that had have I pushed for answers, 90% chance is that I would have found a polyp, had it removed, and I'd be fine. And then I would get routine checkups and they would
Mm.
never progress past, a polyp. But we don't know that at a young age because poo's disgusting to talk about. There's a stigma around it, you know? The conversation is uncomfortable. We don't like to have uncomfortable conversations as young people, especially young women.
Mm. Yeah, it is really challenging because we often put it down to like we're so busy in life now when we
Mm,
put it down to, maybe it's something I ate or I'm just tired and fatigued and I don't feel myself because,
mhm.
life is crazy and I'm stressed and I'm run down and, you
Yeah,
go online and you put in a couple of those symptoms and there's basically 5,000 different
yeah,
conditions you could have. And, it's interesting that you mentioned not wanting to do the research and, like, wanting to be able to take the cards or the hand that you're dealt
mm,
on its own merit, I
mm,
think is a really interesting point because I feel so blessed that, growing up with cystic fibrosis, I didn't
mm,
have access to the internet
mhm,
because I was able to form my own opinion of my circumstances and I was able to regulate the way that I looked at it and have my own optimistic take on things by just living it and
mhm,
breathing it and understanding my own experience, as opposed to if I had access to everyone else's experience before I was maybe ready to receive that and learn
mm.
about it. I think it could have changed the way that I was able to process it.
Completely. And that's probably just the person that you are. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that there are so many people talking about their experiences, especially online, because you do feel so incredibly lonely when you're handed this, you know, deck of cards that maybe isn't all that normal for someone your age in your position. Like, it is really incredibly lonely not being able to have a conversation with someone that actually understands. Like, there's going to be a million people, your closest friendship group, that are going to empathize with you and they're going to offer you help and sympathy, which, to be honest, I hate sympathy because it irks me. But like, there's going to be all these people that step in and say, oh, what can we do? But they don't actually understand how you're feeling. They don't understand what you're going through. They don't know the pain. They don't know how ill you feel when you're taking these medications that are there to prolong your life, essentially. So having those people online are really helpful for like that aspect. And I feel like it feels really weird talking about myself in this way, but as being someone that's like, look how I look and I'm still incredibly ill, but also just because I'm incredibly ill. And if you become incredibly ill, it doesn't mean that your life has to stop. Like, being that pillar of hope if you do get the diagnosis, but also being that face to be like, hey, it doesn't discriminate. Like,
Mm.
I feel like that's really important to have online.
I wonder for you, like, was it a conscious decision to go, this, yeah, this is going to be hard. Yes, this is going to change things, but what it's not going to do is stop me from living my life.
I think it's just the type of person that I am. Like, I'm just a really competitive person, like my entire life growing up. Like, confidence and competitiveness are just like my pillars, I guess, of like who I am. Um, I was really lucky. My medical team, my surgeon in particular, he picked up on that really, really quickly. And he knew that, for example, he didn't give me my prognosis. If he had have given me my prognosis that was, 12 months, I would have lived to that because I'm so competitive with, I guess, information and like the people that I trust. And I would have lived to that. But because he didn't give me that, it gave me the opportunity to live to however long I wanted to live, I guess. And it let me like live further than the 12 weeks eventually. It let me put my own spin on it, I guess.
So when you got the diagnosis, how sick did you actually feel?
Oh, I w honestly, cancer doesn't make me feel sick. The treatments, however, oh my gosh, like, there were the first time, so I did radiotherapy first with
Mm.
oral chemotherapy, which, I thought that I was an absolute boss because it didn't knock me around all that much. But I also had a stoma, so I didn't have to, like, go to the toilet or anything. Like, that did everything for itself. So I feel like that also helped me a lot. But then when I hit the first dose of intravenous chemotherapy, I genuinely didn't sleep that night because I was so scared that if I closed my eyes and went to sleep, I wouldn't wake up. Like, I was so incredibly unwell, but I was also allergic to one of the strains in that chemotherapy. Like, I've tried a whole heap now, but it made me so unwell. Like, I had like dinosaur hands. I literally couldn't move my hands. Like, everything went stiff. Had neuropathy, which is like anything cold that touched me burnt to like water that wasn't like semi-warm, like not even room temperature, but like semi-warm would like burn my throat and like lock it up essentially, right?
Mm.
Um, yeah, there was just so many things that I was experiencing. Like, I was so hungry but the smell or sight of food made me like, like it was so bad. But yeah, anyway, I got through it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I ended up getting admitted for a couple of days post every treatment and like literally just filled with so much fluid just so that I didn't get
Mm.
dehydrated. Because the minute you get dehydrated, eating's not an option, right? So then I wasn't eating, and then you feel even sicker because then you got all this stuff sitting in your stomach. And anyway, it's just like a toxic cycle, quite literally. But the cancer itself never made me feel sick. So I was like, why am I doing this?
It's so ironic, isn't it, that the
Yeah.
thing that you need to do to get better
Mm.
makes you feel like you're getting a whole lot worse
I know.
first?
I never had sickness. I never had pain. Like I'd get inconsistent bowel movements and a bit of blood, and that's the only thing that I was really experiencing. So then when I started feeling all of these things, I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like obviously logically I knew what I was doing. I knew that the drug is made to, prolong my life, but I was like, this sucks. Like some people get this intense pain and stuff prior. So then like obviously having the medication's like, oh, taking away the pain. But I was like, I'm not taking anything away. All I'm doing is adding, like inflicting pain on myself.
How often are you doing chemotherapy at that point?
Oh, at that point, it was every fortnight, once a fortnight, but then daily chemotherapy tablets. Um, it was cooked. Now I do 3 weekly infusions, but they're much milder. Like it's more of a maintenance. It's chemotherapy. Like it's not mild, but it's like more of a maintenance point of view. Like I want to prolong my life, but also have a quality of life. So it's not aggressive anymore. Like it doesn't do a lot. It maintains and stabilizes the tumors that are in my lungs now, but it doesn't reduce them like significantly. The only way that I could do that is remove them, but I can't have surgeries every week. Do you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, at the moment it's 3 weekly infusions of immuno and chemo, and then I take daily chemo tablets. I take 6 tablets a day of chemo.
Yeah, wow. And
Mm.
and and did the chemo ever show signs of shrinking the tumor in your bowel?
Yeah, so it's gone. There's nothing in my bowel anymore. It
Okay.
whatever wasn't reduced by chemo was removed surgically. So I don't have a rectum anymore. I don't have a sigmoid colon. I've lost a bit of my large bowel. It's just all been sewn back together.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I can go to the bathroom again. I did have to learn how to do that, but I can go to the bathroom again, which is bloody lovely. Um, yeah, so now I just have a couple mets in my lung. I had some removed last year in March, but and that was the best surgery I've ever had. No pain, was home in 2 days, was fine. But yeah, the other ones are really quite close to my heart.
Yeah, interesting. And so they can only really treat those with chemo or radiotherapy, right?
Not even radio 'cause it's close to my heart.
Ah, true.
Yeah.
God, it's such a little fucker, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good.
Disease
But
of
you know what? It
cancer.
hasn't grown for 2.5 years. Like it's only ever shrunk or stayed the same. So I feel like I'm really quite a lucky one in this case.
So do you have to have a stoma at all?
So I had it reversed. But yeah, I did have my stoma for the first year of treatment.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so now you're able to function without that.
Yeah.
And has there had to be like lifestyle intervention? Like, do you have to eat less? Like, do you have to take it lighter on your stomach? What does
I
that look
would
like?
love to say that I follow those rules, but like I said earlier, life is to be lived. And if I'm not eating the chocolate or the corn, for example, I'm not living. That's one of my favorite vegetables. I'm eating the corn.
I love your approach to it all because I think that the way that you are, I can't say with any kind of certainty or even with a little bit of optimism that I would be the same way in
Mm.
your circumstance.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think we all surprise ourselves at
Mm.
times, right? But I think it's easier to say that you would be the way that Kellie Finlayson is without having actually had to walk a
Mm.
mile in your shoes. And, so obviously we're 4 years down the track. Do you feel, even though you've always been optimistic, do you feel even more optimistically so about your future?
Technically, yes. So, like I said earlier, I used to live like day by day, 12 hourly, and then I would go to 12 weekly. And now I'm like planning things next year, which is like blows my mind that that is even an option in my brain, considering how short the stints were that I was looking forward, like, 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, which is a long time. 3 years is a long time, especially in the world that I'm living in. But when I was in that moment, I didn't think that I'd ever be where I am now. I didn't think that I would see my daughter go to kindy and stuff like that. So now that I'm able to be like, oh, this is where I'm sending her to school and this is what we're going to do for next year's holiday and like all of these things, like that blows my mind. So I guess I'm optimistic in the sense of like I feel like I have infinite time again. Like everyone lives and plans, like everyone has a 5-year plan these days. I'm like, that's so wild to me because 3 years ago I couldn't even see 12 days ahead.
Mm.
2 years before that, I had a 10-year plan. Like the fact that we are also, I don't know, like flippant. I don't know what the word is with our planning and like so optimistic to like we're all. No one is no one's guaranteed life, right? The fact that we all have these 10-year plans is like, how are we so confident that we're going to live those 10 years? But now I'm kind of like slowly building myself up to be able to do that again. So I'm optimistic in the sense of that, but I'm also really quite legit, like literal and like logical. And I know what I'm living with. So like, I'm just, I don't know, taking every day as a win. I've already grieved what I've lost. So now every day is just a win.
Was there a certain point in time where you feel like the grieving stopped?
Yeah. Like it switched, literally switched. So the day that we decided that we were no longer going to continue the horrible experience of trying to grow, not experience, but like the stress you put on yourself to try and continue growing your family. The day we decided
Mm.
that that's just, it's not worth it for us is the day that I was like, I'm done. Like everything else is now just positive.
When was that, Kelly?
Oh, that was December 2020. No, January 2025. January last year.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, January last year we decided, I think it was like the 5th of Jan. We were like, nah, it wasn't good for anyone. I wasn't a good person. I was stressed all the time. Stress grows cancer. So essentially I was putting myself at risk. Sophia was losing out on us because of how much I was trying to do for that. And then, yeah, we also saw families struggling to go on a flight because they had 4 kids and they couldn't afford it. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm traveling with my daughter.
Yeah, that is very fair.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a few different things today.
Sure.
I guess one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you, Kel, is,
Mm.
we are all more mortal than we realize, in most cases. And, you know, certainly some of us have to recognize that mortality through maybe health challenges that we were born with or that have come to us later in life. Some of us realize that because we lose somebody or people that we love.
Mhm.
Some of us haven't realized that yet.
Mhm.
And, that shock is going to set in at some point
Yeah, it's coming.
in our lives. And with I guess, the fragility of life and how awful and frustrating that is, also comes this opportunity to recognize how lucky we are to have
Mhm.
air in our lungs and a heartbeat today and the opportunity to live. I have a I have a concept that's really close to my heart. I've got a book coming out this year and it's called I Wrote My Own
Congrats.
Eulogy. And it's the idea
Congrats.
of thank you. It's the idea of regardless of whether the eulogy is something that's usually read by and crafted by someone close to the person that has passed.
Mhm.
But I got curious a couple of years ago that if we all had to write our own eulogies,
What would you
what
write?
would we say? But if we had
Mm.
to write our own eulogy today as if it was our last day on earth, what would we have wished we'd lived for? What would we wish we had valued more, spent more time on? Who would we have spent more time with? How would we have changed the way that we lived our lives? And in the blessing that we still have life ahead of us, how will we
Mhm.
change the way that we live tomorrow? I wonder for you whether there's been any kind of intervention, whether without doing it, without recognizing that you're doing it, have you written your own eulogy or your own way of moving forward with your family?
Well, obviously I wrote a book and there, like even just I dedicate it to myself 4 years prior or 3 years prior to when it came out. I did dedicate it to the person that I was only because I hadn't really changed as a person, which I found really quite shocking. Genuinely, I
Mm.
found it quite shocking that not a lot of my person had changed. I didn't have different values. I still valued the same things. I still had the same goals in my life now, just with like, I guess, a bit of baggage. um, but in terms of writing my own eulogy, first of all, I don't want a funeral. So that's like one of my the biggest things that I tell my husband all the time, obviously not as much anymore, but early on I said, I do not want a funeral. I don't want people crying over me. I want people to celebrate my life. I want people to go and have a drink or go to the beach or whatever it may be. I don't want a funeral, as I think they're just sad, depressing places to be. But if I were to write a eulogy or like an Instagram post, for example, because I can guarantee that's where, something's going to be posted to be like, she's gone or whatever. If someone were to write about that, all I would want is for people to recognize that I was the best mum that I could be with what I had, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Optimistically, the things that you're looking forward to, have you, do you have plans that maybe you didn't a couple of years ago? I don't necessarily mean have you changed as a person, but are there things that you want to tick off, things that maybe, you before the diagnosis thought, that can wait, but now you're like, no, actually life can't wait.
Yeah, potentially. Like I've always had this list of things that I've wanted to do. Like I said, I really am quite the same person. Like I've always had ultimately the same goals, like in sense of like my career, working for myself, not being like working for someone else, not having the mundane 9 to 5. Like some people thrive in that, I don't. Like having flexibility to spend time with the people that I want to spend time with, but also like having boundaries and not spending time with people that I don't want to spend time with. Like I've always been that person. In terms of like big bucket list things, I've got a few things in the works already this year that unfortunately can't be talked about just in case they go through. I literally find out today, which is really exciting.
It's exciting.
I wouldn't have done that, but that's also because I thought I'd have 3 kids. Do you know what I mean? Like I thought I would be a mum to 3 under 4 right now if I had my way. So it wasn't feasible for me to be a 30-year-old thinking about these things. But now that I have a 4-year-old that is the most resilient little girl in the world and can, stay with friends for a week if I have to be somewhere, or she's like best friends with her grandma, like her grandma brought her up for the first year of her life. So like now that I've only got her, I'm able to think about these things and be a little bit more selfish with my time. And, it also helps that my husband changed his job. So now he's a lot more flexible. So it's probably nothing to do with my illness, but more so to do with just the stage of life that I'm in.
So, you mentioned your daughter, 4.
Mm.
At 4, I feel like kids are starting to take stock of the world. They're starting to, I can remember things from when I was 4. I feel like, around that 4, 5, 6, you start to have a frame of how you see the world and you're remembering those experiences. Is there any kind of conversation you have with Sophia at this stage of her life where she understands what mum's going through and, what mum's going to have to contend with moving forward?
Yeah, so great question. We are very age appropriate with the way that we, I guess, tackle it. We don't want her to be scared because she has had people, she's friends with like older kids. It's just the people that we hang around, right? And some of them are really smart. So they know how to use technology. They know how to look up things. So they know that Auntie Kel has cancer. They want to know what cancer is. They tell Sophia what cancer is. And she's like, oh, my mum doesn't have cancer. She's got chemo. Like so like, that's what she thinks I have. She thinks that I have chemo, and, until the day that I have to tell her, I guess, more, she can just think that I've got chemo. That's what I've got, so that no one tells her really what it means. Because, she was waking up at night being like, I don't want to miss my mummy. And like, that's terrifying. Like she doesn't need that trauma yet. She doesn't need to know that because there's no sign. Like obviously if I was told like, okay, you got 3 months to live, I'd have to have that conversation with her. But I haven't been told that. I don't feel that in my heart that I'm going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So she just doesn't need to know that. She can just have a mum like everyone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I wonder from Jeremy's position, your husband, what's his take on all of this? How has he changed throughout the period of diagnosis through to now? Like, is he, did it hit him harder than it hit you? What does that look like?
Yeah, there's a few stages that definitely got him worse than they got me. Like, so when I relapsed the first time, I had a scan and I'd kind of already had conversations with my oncologist at the time. Like, if it's this, it means we do chemo. If it's this, it means we have to have a surgery. If it's this, it means we have to do radiation. If it's this, it means you're in palliative care. And I went into the scan results. So he turned it around to me and showed me. And I knew exactly what it meant because I was lit up like a Christmas tree. I was like, well, that's palliative care. I literally got up and walked out. I was like, I don't need to hear anything else from you. This man that had only met me for like 2 minutes, I was like, I don't need to hear anything else from you. I know what that means. And I got in the car and Jeremy was like, fuck, that was really rude. Like, what's wrong? And I was like, oh, you don't know what the word palliative care means. And not a lot of people do understand what that means, especially when you've never had to experience anyone going through it. I was like, mate, this is what it means. And that was the first time that he saw his life without me in it. And that was, a year and a half in. And he was like, holy shit. Like, I've never seen him so scared. But then he went in and got our daughter from our friend's house who was looking after them at the time. He came out and had already found a new oncologist. So I was like, well, that's not an option. Like, obviously
Yeah.
I'm not going to go get comfortable and have morphine and on my way
Yeah.
out. Like, that's not an option for me. So I got a new oncologist within the time that he went and picked up our daughter. And he's like,
Mm.
I don't know how you do it. And I was like, neither. But like, if I don't, who's going to?
Far out. That got me, Kel. I've
I
got
know.
the sweaty eye.
At the time I was like, oh my God, he's got no idea. Like, I was stressed just for him to realize.
Mm.
But then I also knew within myself that that wasn't going to be an option for me. So like, while I needed him to know what that meant, so that it was like realistic. So it could still be an option sort of thing. I also did everything that I could to make sure that wasn't an option for me.
So in finding that new oncologist, what changed?
He realized that I was a person and not a number. I was treated like
Yeah.
a person. He knew that my quality of life was important, but he also knew I wanted to be alive to see my daughter
Mm.
grow up. She was 1 at this stage. She He put me on a new chemo. I'd had to go on another regressive round of chemotherapy. He said, "Look, this is going to ruin your hair. Like, you're going to lose your hair, but it's also going to ruin your fertility. So you got like no hope." And in that moment, I was like, "Whatever." But he also knew we were getting married at the end of that year because we'd planned to get married in October that year, and this was January. He's like, you should probably bring your wedding forward so you don't, you're not bald in your wedding photos. I was like, fuck, this oncologist is a genius. Anyway, I thought he actually thought it was for my hair, but he was like, you're not going to make it to October sort of thing. And that's what he was thinking in
Mm.
his head. Jeremy also understood that that's what he was saying, but I was so in like a world of my own. I was like, oh, my hair, I need to get married. Anyway, we got married within 3 weeks. And look, that was 3 years ago. So I'm doing okay.
How? Talk to me through the wedding. Wedding is a special
Yeah.
day. I got married in August last year. It's best day of my
Mm.
life.
Yeah.
I look back on it all the time. I just literally this morning rewatched our wedding video.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly happy memory. How was your day?
Yeah, not not as happy. I had chemo the next morning, and I had started losing my hair a little bit. So my hair wasn't, obviously, I couldn't wear it down or anything like that. So I did wear it up. I still looked like myself, which was great. We had a really small, intimate, just our bridal party and our immediate family members there. Um, we got really lucky. Like, obviously, I'd been sharing my story for a little bit at that point. So, like, anyone that I did reach out to were really willing to, like, not do anything on that day so they could be there. For example, like, my photographer was like, absolutely, I'll be there. Like, hair, makeup, all of that. Everyone was like, there's no way we would miss it. But like, they all made it like feel like just like a wedding day. So obviously it wasn't the dream wedding that I'd always hoped for. I even got a dress sent to me within 2 days of realizing that I wanted to get married. Like, all of these people rallied around me, but it wasn't what I'd hoped and dreamed for. Obviously, it was still a magical day. Like, Sophia was this cutest little flower girl you'd ever see. Like, it was still really great. But then at the same time, I was like, well, that's not what I'd hoped for. So we actually ended up having a wedding party, or like the reception, on New Year's Eve, the year just been. So
Oh
I got to
wow!
like, yeah, so I got to like still have the party side of it. Like, our first dance was at 8 p.m. in the hotel room because I had to go to sleep because I had chemo the next morning. Like,
Wow.
that, I had to, like, yeah, we just had to adapt. And like, I was kind of used to it by that point, just like planning my life around my health.
Mm.
So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was kind of frustrating knowing that it's not what I'd planned. I'd already booked everything for 10 months' time.
Yeah, the hair is such a challenging one. I think it's challenging for anyone to have something that is yours stripped from you.
Physical. Mm-hmm.
It feels very visceral. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of maybe no hiding now. Sometimes you can hide
Even
how you
from
feel on the
yourself.
inside.
Even from yourself, you don't look like yourself anymore. It's so much harder to convince yourself that you are okay. Like, when I like looking at myself right now, I look well, so I'm able to pretend even
Mm.
to myself that I am well. But when I lost my hair, I was like, I look horrible. When I had moon face from steroids from my treatment, I felt and looked horrible, and I couldn't build myself back up to feel okay or to pretend that I was okay. But, like, obviously there's lots of, like, wigs and stuff that you can get, and I did eventually get one and I felt okay, but losing my hair, I just knew that I would look sick and people would treat me that way.
Yeah, that's a hard thing, as you said, as someone who maybe doesn't like sympathy. You know that a whole lot of sympathy is coming your
Mhm.
way, when there's no way of hiding it.
Yeah.
And I can imagine it's more challenging for women, like I know my wife, if she has a bad hair day, she's got really naturally curly hair.
Yeah.
And if she has a bad hair day, she's like, "Oh, I can just tell my hair's off today. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel good." I can't imagine
Shut
what it
the
would be
door, I'm
like
not going
to
anywhere.
yeah, yeah, and, I can imagine I can't even imagine how stressful it would be when
Mm.
you lose that part of you. When it starts growing back, though, do you feel this sense of you returning to self eventually?
No, because it comes back so different. Mine came back so thick, curly, black. Like it was,
Really?
yeah, it came back so different that I now couldn't have brown hair because it reminds me of the regrowth. Like I have to be blonde to be me. If I were to dye my hair back to that color, I would feel like I'm sick again.
Yeah, wow. It's interesting how we attach different, visuals or
Yeah.
feelings to, experiences of the past that,
Your body
you know,
remembers.
yeah, what do they say? Your body keeps a score.
Yeah, and it does. Absolutely. Your hair remembers too. Like I literally dyed my hair when it was probably like that long and got
Mm.
extensions. And since then, it's just like it's 2 years of growth, and most people don't get this in like 8 years. Like it's
Yeah, wow.
crazy. My brain's like, oh, she's back. Let's grow it. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, is there
Mm.
anything, of course, we've spoken about like the traditional treatments for cancer, which is chemotherapy, radiotherapy. I know people have different perspectives and
Hmm.
ideas on these things. I'm relatively optimistic about modern medicine because it's kept me alive for 30 years.
Yep.
I'm curious as to whether there's anything that you're doing naturally in the form of natural remedies or treatments that you feel like are, you know, prolonging your longevity, but also giving you, the best opportunity to have a functional, healthy life.
Yeah. So I actually delved really deep into alternate medicine. Like I did all the research. I went and saw an alternate, like natural oncologist type guy. And I did all of the things, but I was taking up to 60 tablets a day just
Mm.
to have the same effect that my 6 chemo tablets were having, if that makes sense. Like, it was never aggressive enough to shrink. Yes, it kept me stable, and I obviously wasn't putting poison into my body, but I felt sicker putting 60
Mm.
tablets into my no one can eat enough to counteract those tablets. Like, you're literally rattling when you walk, right? But I also I found just, like, kind of a happy medium for a bit there. I was doing my modern medicine. I was doing chemo and, immunotherapy, but also going and doing an oncotherm, which is, like, this big hot plate. It's not hot to touch, but, like, it heats up your entire insides, and the cancer obviously grabs to the heat and grows. So then when I was doing my chemo, it was attacking the cancer quicker or, like, more effectively. That I found really, really helpful, but now that it's the only place is near my heart, I can't use that. Um, I also did like a whole heap of like ozone therapies. I've got a infrared sauna. I have a um, lymph plate, so like it's like one of those exercise weight loss like plates that people stand on and like wobble,
Yeah.
but it's purely for after I have treatment. It like removes everything. It's like lymphatic drainage for me.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
like, it, like, all comes out of my lymph nodes because everything's wobbling. It's like going for a run essentially without actually going for a run with my half a lung. Like, it
Yeah.
obviously, it's just easier for me to do that. So it's like lymphatic drainage, which was really, really beneficial. Um, for me, obviously, I
Mm.
don't condone it. Like, I don't put anything onto anyone. But yeah, they're probably the things that have worked the best for me. I tried really hard to just go full alternate and put no toxins in my body. Like everyone, I feel like tries to do that. It didn't work for me. It just didn't. Like I didn't have the results that I'd hoped for, and it was also $10,000 a month. So like just not
Yeah, it's
worth it.
massive.
Like it was so expensive, and like I'd love to go to Mexico and like do the full on like 3 week treatment to see what it does. But it's 200 grand. Like I don't know. While it's working, I feel like don't fix what ain't broken.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, there's certainly something to be said for that because there's there's a million different opinions online and a million different ideas as to what can work and what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. I feel like you've just got to do what works
Yeah.
and stay true to that path.
Yeah, completely. And like, don't get me wrong, if this stopped working, it's been working for 2.5 years. So like
Mm,
if it did stop working, of course I would try other things. Like I would do different trials and like of course I would. Like I'm not silly. Like I'm still a
mm.
human. Obviously I want to get the best out of my life, but it's working so well. I have bugger all side effects. Like I get the only way I can describe it to people that have never been through it is that I feel like I'm 38 weeks pregnant at all time, except I don't get the reward at the end. Like I don't get the baby. So I just get like the fatigue at 2 o'clock. I get the insomnia every now and then because it's uncomfortable to sleep. I get like aches and pains in my back and like my body. Obviously, pregnant people get that too. I feel like I'm literally a slow as well as a pregnant person at 38 weeks, but without the reward. That's the only way I can explain it.
It's interesting, like when you think about, and I don't know what your plans were entering motherhood,
Mm.
anyways, but you think about being as young as you were. We're the same age, I think. So you were born in 96,
I'm 95, but December
95.
95. Yeah.
So, we're at a stage of life where you feel like you have so much opportunity ahead of you. Like you're starting to figure out a little bit, maybe
Hmm.
not always of exactly who you are, but at least figuring out who you're not
Mm.
and, what doesn't resonate with you. I wonder whether you feel like a bit of a loss of purpose or, some opportunity was stripped from you, be it career wise, life wise at the time of your diagnosis.
Yeah, completely. So sitting in the hospital room after my major surgery, so the lower internal, like bowel removal, anterior resection, um, sitting in the hospital for that one, I had a really hard recovery for that, and that's the only one I've had hard recovery, so I won't complain. But I was in there for a really long time and being away from my daughter for 12 days in the hospital during COVID when we had to smuggle her into the hospital because she hadn't had her jabs. Obviously, she was a newborn. Being in hospital at that stage, I was looking out windows being like, every other person in my life right now has the exact same life that they had 2 weeks ago. And they knew what they were doing today. They got up and they continued to, I guess, add to their life. They continued to add to their career, to their family, whatever it may have been. And I'm just sitting here doing absolutely nothing but try to survive. Like your life is completely on hold and it's wild. Like even the doctor says like, we'll remove the next 12 months of your life because like you're going to be focusing solely on you. And it's like, that sucks because I had so many plans in these 12 months. Like I had so many things that I wanted to be doing. Everyone else gets to keep doing them, but I have to sit here and just survive.
Yeah, especially at that age, I feel
Mm.
like, I always sympathize with people who through, their mid 20s to sort of like late 30s have any kind of, it's terrible to have this kind of
Mm.
diagnosis at any stage of life. But particularly during that period of life, you have so many, crucial decisions to make as to what your future can look like. It's never too late to change your career. It's never too late to start something or become passionate about something new. But like certainly the body and, our age has limitations on, when we can bring kids into the world, or at least
Mhm.
for women it does.
Yeah. Mm, yeah.
If you're a guy who wants to at least see your kids grow up to be a relatively old age, you've got to
Yeah.
think about that too. But there are all these challenges that we can't deny that like your 20s and 30s are a crucial period of life in which, it sets you up for your future. And so
Mhm.
to feel like you have some of that autonomy or that agency taken away is
Yeah.
really challenging.
Yeah.
Speaking of the hospital system, though, I wonder whether you met any, allies who were facing similar challenges to you, maybe cancer, maybe not, who you were able to learn a little bit from and connect
In
with,
yeah, in terms of the staff or like people that were in the hospital at the same time?
either other.
Yeah, well, like I've said a million times, I got really lucky with my medical system. I'm actually like really close now with both my stoma nurse and my surgeon's nurse, as well as my new oncologist nurse as well. But like to the point that we obviously had our little wedding on New Year's Eve slash both of our 30th
Mm.
birthdays, and they were there. Like that's how close I am with them. They've never had issues of their own, but they've been so involved with people like me for so long. Well, not like me, a lot older, but people that had like similar, I guess, experiences. And then obviously being able to tell me, like, you've done this so much faster, built me up more to be able to like keep going at that rate, if that makes sense. Like, you're doing well hits so hard when you're in a position like that. But in terms of like people that I met that were similar, one of my best friends now, Sophie, I met her in the hospital when I was having a scope. She had just had her stoma put on, like just had her stoma placed. And we were in different rooms, but my stoma nurse was like, there's someone else of a similar age to you in here. And that was so unheard of that we like instantly connected via our phones because we both couldn't get up. Like I had prep, so you can't move after you've had colonoscopy prep, let me tell you. And she just had a stoma, so she couldn't move either. So we were contacting each other through our phones. But ever since, we've been like inseparable because we've been through something that changes your life in a way that no one understands, but we understand. Like she's also only got one child, so like she's got the only child problem. Like yeah, there's so many things. But then Geordie, another person, didn't have cancer. She had Crohn's, but she had a stoma as well. So we met on the same ward as well. Her daughter's literally upstairs with my husband right now having a sleep. Like one of her twins. Like yeah, you meet people in there that change your life for the better. Like being able to soundboard off of people that understand. Like I said earlier, like obviously you can meet them online, but you can also meet them in real life in your ward. Unheard of for your age, usually, to meet someone of a similar age. But the fact that I did, and with two like people that are so incredibly easy to get along with for myself as well, has been a godsend. Like I also met someone online that was going through it at the exact same rate. She had a daughter that was 2 months older than Sophia, but we were going to every appointment on the same day. We were having our surgeries on the same day. She woke up from her major surgery and got told she was in remission. I didn't. So that changed so much. Like I had set up my phone because she'd just text me and been like, I'm in remission. So I set up my phone when my surgeon came in so that I could film him telling me that I was in remission. But instead I was like, because he was like, oh, we couldn't get it all. I was like, but meeting that person, then I was able to message her and be like, fuck you. Like, screw you, I hate you. And she's like, love you. But yeah, having people to like soundboard that won't get offended by things you say as well has been really great. Also had like some pretty bad experiences as well, obviously, like sitting in an oncology waiting room and having older people be like, oh, she's so young. Like, no shit, Janice. But I'm still here and I'm still about to go do the exact same thing that you're doing. Obviously, most people are really supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not deaf. I don't have hearing aids, so I can hear you really well. Yeah, and like bad experience in terms of how I look, people being like, why is she here? But yeah, mostly really positive.
I feel like you have a sense of humor, which I think allows you to
It's quite
combat some
dark.
of that stuff. You kind of need it.
Yeah.
I've got this great story. I've only told it once or twice on the podcast, but I was a couple of years ago now. It would have been late 2019 or early 2020. I had just bought my first property. You know, like an exciting stage of life, and
Debt. Woo.
yeah, you're like, I'm so excited to have a mortgage to pay off.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I don't still have it, so I'm not stressed about the
Oh.
mortgage rates. But I remember at the time I was going to see the home loan specialist at my bank, and I had an appointment. I got there maybe 5 minutes early, so I'm sitting in the waiting room, and this guy, sort of like middle age, maybe in his mid 50s, late 50s, walks out and he looks at me and he goes, I can't fucking believe what I'm seeing. Bradley Drybra. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And he goes, oh, mate, I thought you'd be dead by now. And I was like, sorry, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm Jacob's dad. You went to school with Jacob. You went to his party in kindergarten. I'm like, yeah, I remember Jacob. And he's like, mate, I just can't believe it. I remember thinking of you as a kid and thinking, oh, he won't make it. And he's like, but look at you. And I'm like, yeah, mate, alive and kicking. Still doing well. And like it didn't offend me in the slightest, but I just found it so funny how people project so honestly. But I think you've got to have a sense of humor. I think most people who have some kind of health complexity, and like my challenges are certainly so small compared to yours, right?
Wow.
Mine isn't life or death at this stage. I'm very healthy. You know, everything's going really well for me. And so maybe you can look at it through a more positive lens and have a laugh about it. But I just remember thinking, mate, this son of a bitch is so lucky I've got a sense of humor.
Yeah. Imagine if you didn't have a thick skin. I think that all the time. Imagine if my skin wasn't thick, I would spiral so often with the comments that get thrown my way. But I had an similar experience, except my hospital oncology department shut down and then reopened a year later, like new team, but same staff. And I walked in like, oh, Kellie, you're still here. I'm like, oh, hi. Like, sorry, we don't normally have people longer than 12 months. You know, they're either better or they're dead. So like, hi.
Wow.
I'm like, "Yeah, hi.
That's so
Sorry, I'm
funny,
still
isn't it?
here."
Still kicking. You got
Yeah.
me for a while longer.
I know, every time I sit in front of my oncologist, I'm like, "So what's new?" And he's like, "I don't know why you're still here." Or like an example, I was having a, cardiothoracic surgeon look at me and I was like, "So what's the options?" He's like, "I don't know. I've never dealt with someone like you."
Like, oh, that well, that's certainly inspiring.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sick. Let's
Yeah.
do a surgery."
I feel confident. Talk to me about
Oh,
the tumors near the heart, because obviously
yeah.
you've mentioned a couple times, like, you can't have radiotherapy if
Mm.
it's near the heart, there's
Yeah, it's also
certain.
it's not worth it though, like, in terms of, like, they're so small that it would have to be so precise, and also 'cause, there's quite a like, a few, there's, like, 7 or something there. You'd have to hit every single one of them. You can only do 1 at a time.
Mm,
So, like, it's just not worth it with the scar tissue that leaves in your lungs when I already have had surgery. So, like, obviously I've had some lung removed. Just it's not worth it. Like, anytime I had radio on my lung once, on my, right lung, and it left so much scar tissue that every time I got sick, it would collapse.
'cause it's essentially burning you, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like cutting. But then I've had wedge surgery, so wedge resections out of the same lung, and it left no issues. So I feel
What's
like
that?
I'd rather, it's like burning, I guess, like burning off the tumor so that it heals again like a burn would.
Okay.
And it didn't leave as much scar tissue, and I knew it was gone because it wasn't like a through my body, like he saw it being removed. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't know. It's really hard to decide what you want to do, especially like I said, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. Because like opening up so many more complications if you do go in and do something and it goes wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. It can kind of become a little bit of a recurring cycle of surgeries and
Yeah, and I'm
interventions
also an
needed.
addict. I'm a surgery addict because I love the feeling, and you get 6 weeks off of treatment.
Yeah, true. Okay, true.
Yeah. So, like, I ask for them all the time, and he's like, "Don't talk to me until like a year later." I'm like, "Okay, yeah,
Yeah, so you've
it's
really got to
wild."
space it out. Yeah.
Mm.
So is there, are there any people that you know of that, are just on constant chemo medication that have had, decades of life to live?
I know someone. I don't know how long she's been um living with it, but when I was diagnosed, she actually used to work where my husband played in Sydney. So used to work in the like admin side of things. And when I was diagnosed, they reached out and they're like, "Oh, here's someone that's kind of gone through it. Like talk to her if you need to." She's a bit older. She's got kids about my age, to be honest. But she's on immunotherapy every 3 weeks, the same, similar to what I'm on, really. But I don't know. She has a lot of complications, so I don't know if I would try to be like, do you know what I mean? Like I would
Yeah.
like to reflect off of her situation because I feel like I have less complications. Um, I don't really know anyone, to be honest, because normally it stops working. Like it's not common to be able to be on this treatment this long and it not stop working.
Mm.
Like you normally have to pick something else up.
Yeah, okay. Change it, almost hit it with
Yeah.
something different, freshen
Yeah, like
things
I've
up.
I've randomly met so many people that have been dealing with it for like quite a substantial amount of time, like pretty similar to me, like 4 to 5 years. But they're always changing up their treatments and, like, for one, for example, just had his 100th chemo infusion, and I'm like, "I didn't even count like, keep count. I don't even know how many."
Yeah.
But he's changed so many times that it's, like, all written in front of him.
Yeah, that is fair. I guess it's a long journey to remember all of it, isn't it? And
Yeah.
probably a little bit overwhelming to take two closer notes.
Yeah, I feel like if I'd been changing up, like, every 3 months, I'd be like, "Oh, well, I had 6 of that cycle, 6 of," do you know what I mean? It'd be easy to add it all up, but I've got no idea.
Yeah, so I guess did you do any research as to, being in Adelaide,
Mm.
at this point in your life, like did you do any research as to whether there were other oncologists who were having more success in different areas? Or I guess the treatment's all pretty standard, right?
Mm.
So
Oh, it's not though, it's really personalised, especially in a younger person. And there's so many mutations of even just the bowel cancer that I have. There's like 7 different ones that would be addressed differently. Um, I didn't. I went with the oncologist that my surgical team recommended. Obviously,
yeah.
that didn't work out. And then asked them, I was like, no, I need the best. But since being with my oncologist, I have like met other oncology units in like Victoria and New South Wales, and they've both been like, you need to be with this guy. And I'm like, I've been with him for years, and like, perfect, you're fine. So,
Oh,
like,
that's a
that's
good feeling.
really reassuring. Yeah, they're like, "You need him," or, like, someone will be like, "Who's your oncologist?" And I'll tell them, they'll be like, "Oh, he's fantastic." I'm like, "I've done it right."
Yeah, that's great. That gives you a lot of confidence when
Mm.
you're working with someone that other people deem to be the best.
Yeah, he's also, like, just laughs with me and, like, he understands that my quality of life is probably more important than being, like, aggressive and stuff like that. So he knows that I want to actually be able to be a mum. There's no point just chilling around, like, sticking around and not actually
Mm.
being able to live. So, like, he understands that I want to be able to pick up my child. I don't wanna be so weak that I can't do that and stuff like that.
What made you decide, Kel, that you wanted to be public about this experience and talk
Mm.
about it? Because I feel like that's a decision that people weigh up, right? And some people feel like they can't deal with the public knowledge
Mhm.
and they want to handle it privately. Some people get a kick out of feeling as though they can be a sense of hope for other people too.
Yeah, so I actually kind of stumbled upon me. So I was getting messages from hundreds of people that I knew and loved, but hundreds of messages a day asking for updates or whatever it may have been. And it was easier for me to post on Instagram when I had like 2,000
Oh.
people on there, so like people that I knew and loved, and be like, "This is what happened this week. This is what happened this week," because it was becoming like this cycle of one friend asking me and then everyone going to that friend. Like that friend also had a life and a job and had to do things. So like she couldn't be the spokesperson forever. It literally started with me just posting, and then obviously my husband has a public job. He was an athlete. So like as soon as that got picked up, then it became in the newspapers, and then people were asking more questions. So it was again easier for me to reply by posting an update on Instagram. And that's just how it happened. And then I would talk. I'm a confident person. I can talk with a mouthful of marbles underwater. So when I was asked to like speak on a podcast or speak on the news, I was like, yeah, sure, let's do this. Obviously, only when I was like willing and able, in terms of like that being when I was quite sick. But once I kind of gone over that hurdle and realized how many lives I was saving, I was like, I can't stop. It would be so selfish.
That purpose piece, right? Having a little bit of purpose again, maybe finding it
Yeah.
in something that you didn't expect to, but
Yes, but also like I said, like people were messaging me be like, I did this because of. I couldn't stop because if I'd already saved, 3,000 lives through a simple colonoscopy or whatever it may have been, how many more could I save? Like I literally felt like it would be rude to stop.
yeah, absolutely. I
Mm,
love that, and I think that there is so much purpose in being able to help other people potentially avoid the
completely.
pain and the hardship that you've experienced, and and saving one life is
Mm.
effectively changing so many more
So
because of
many, yeah.
the
Which people don't understand that aspect of it. Obviously, I'm okay, so it's a little bit easier for my family now. But initially, I can't even imagine what was going through their minds. Like so many life changes to everyone.
what was your parents' experience of all of this?
Mum had to quit her job where she became my daughter's mum because
Mm,
Jeremy had to go to work to keep the roof above our head, and then he'd come sit in the hospital until 2 a.m. in the morning, and then he'd go home and then go to work again. Like my mum was the sole carer of our daughter, so she quit her job to do that, and then my dad is back in Port Lincoln still, so mum was like FIFO in and out. So they obviously didn't see each other as much as they were used
mhm.
to, and yeah, it changed a lot. But obviously I'm better now, so they're much more comfortable with it. But I don't know, we made home a safe space, so we never talked about it. Home wasn't for talks about being ill. Home was for being a mum, for being a partner, for being a daughter, and then the hospital was for those conversations. So it was hard. Like no one ever speaks about their feelings around it. I protected them from my feelings, they protected me from theirs, and I mean, it's probably toxic, but it worked.
No, I don't think it's toxic. I think that there is a certain bubble that you need to create in which it can be positive, because I think that if it's negative all the time and then you become responsible for how everyone feels about the thing that you're trying to overcome,
Mm.
it just all becomes too much.
Yeah.
You can't be allowed to spiral in every area of your life.
No.
Otherwise, home feels like the hospital and hospital feels no different to
Yeah,
home.
well, that's what I figured. I figured it was kinda like not bringing work home, but it was just not bringing my illness home instead.
Do you know, was mum and dad, were they emotionally stable through that period of the diagnosis? Like, I can't ever imagine, like, it is unnatural
Yeah.
for a mother and father to think about having to bury their child. As
Yeah, see,
children, we think about at some stage we're gonna have to bury our
a
parents because that's
parent,
the
yeah.
natural cycle of life.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know, our family had quite a bit of loss in the lead up. So, like, my mum's both of her parents passed away, as well as her brother and my dad's dad. So, like, there was a lot of loss that we'd already experienced. We're probably a bit numb to it, if I'm being honest. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I ever gave her the opportunity to think about burying me because, like I said, I was such a positive person that
Mm.
I never really let that be my reality. I'm sure she did think of it every now and then, but also I didn't want a funeral, so it would have been like a less stressful experience. I don't know. It's so hard to think of from their point of view, just like they can't think of it from my point of view, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Kel, you're doing a bit of work with 25 Stay Alive. Hugo's a friend of the show. He was on
Yeah,
this podcast many years ago. He's a great man,
he is.
and very similar to you, is such an advocate for people doing what they should be doing and getting their checks and staying on top of their health.
Mhm.
What are the plans for the next couple of years? And what right now do you want to do and want to achieve through sharing your story?
Yeah, so I do a vision board every year. I mean, it stopped for a little while there, but I'm back. I've been back since last year. So the biggest thing, I guess, for what I see, especially with this part of my career, with the advocacy and the awareness and the keynoting and everything like that, it's reaching 2 to 5 million new people. So obviously, I've got this great community, and I'm really good at, especially in South Australia, getting the message across that we should take that first symptom seriously. But yeah, the goal of this year was to reach 2 to 5 million new people. And if I can do that, then I'm doing a bloody good job. In terms of advocacy, though, I love working with people of like mind, like Hugo. His story is incredible, and he's also a really good speaker. So I've learned a lot from him, from working closely with him, which has been a blessing. But also doing things that are outside of the health realm, and like still using public speaking as like my main career because I love to speak, and also having the conversations after a gig that hasn't been involved with health, but someone like recognizing me, I feel like has been really beneficial to not only myself but to people in that room, because then obviously it like
Mm.
spreads like Chinese whispers. So yeah, I don't know, speaking using my voice, it's a tool that I've grown up being confident with, and it's something that's saving life. So that's obviously the forefront of what I'm doing. But yeah, I've got other big plans that are with Jeremy and I as well, which we've been really good at both of our careers separately. So now we want to kind of do something together.
I love that.
Yeah.
I got to ask, you mentioned there recognizing the first symptom.
Mm.
Like, well, what are some of the symptoms that people should be looking out for?
Yeah. So I kind of go to chronic illness more so than just cancer these days, because there's so many things that pop up and things that can be lifelong and terminal that aren't cancer. Um, I feel like if we don't know, first of all, if we don't know our normal, then we're really doing something wrong. We should be able to identify what is normal for us. It's really easy to compare to someone of a similar age, similar stature, similar living lifestyle, whatever it may be. But the truth is that no two people have the same normal, and like even identical twins with the same makeup of DNA have different normals within themselves. So it's really important to understand what your normal is, because if we don't know what's normal for us, how are we supposed to recognize when something's not right? Now, if we understand our normal, which is something that I kind of like shove down people's throats, then that first thing that shows up, we're able to take that more seriously. When we take that to the GP, this isn't right for me, and they say you're too young, fit, and healthy, you can say, no, this isn't right for me, because you now know that that's not normal.
Mm.
So identifying something that's not right for you and standing on it, I think is really important. I feel like if we don't do anything about it now and it shows up next month and the month after that, that's a pattern, obviously. That's how early detection happens, it's through pattern.
Mm.
But if we're doing nothing about it, then in 3 years' time, when we get a diagnosis that's not so nice, can't be shocked. We knew it was
Mm.
there. And I feel like that's really important to remember as well as younger people, is that we can still have things go wrong. We're not immune, doesn't discriminate. And if we take ourselves seriously, it's 99% more likely that the GP will then take you seriously too.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's such an important message, and
Mm.
I guess knowing your normal helps if you've got a little bit of routine and consistency in your life
Yeah.
too, in which you can keep a pretty close understanding and relationship with your
Yeah.
health to what that looks like, and hopefully, with people like yourself, Kel, with people like Hugo,
Mm.
many people are living healthier, longer, happier and more functional lives by getting their checks and reaching out to the doc and just doing those things out of routine. I know that, the GP is one of the most frustrating things to book because you try to book into the GP and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's available in 5 weeks," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Well, I'm sick today. I'm not sick in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Or at least I hope I'm not."
True. Yeah.
It's so frustrating, but you've got to book that in routinely
Yeah.
and get your tests and checks. I'm lucky that
Yeah.
because of CF, I've got to do routine checks
Well,
anyway.
that's the thing, right? Now that I'm obviously under close watch, I'm like, well, nothing else comes up because anything that ever is different. I'm like, well, this happened, and they'll tell me why, or they'll do something about it. I'm like, it's actually like saving my life from other things similar to Hugo. He wouldn't have checked his bowels if he hadn't have already had something wrong.
Yeah.
Like it because I've been, shown what can happen. I'm so much more on top of things. I wish I could say that it rubs off on everyone around me, but it doesn't. People are still naive and they're like, I'm so invincible. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it sucks that we've had to go through something, but now we are so on top of it.
Oh, 100%. Hey, it's been so good to chat to you. I know that we've got to get you out of here so you can go get your little lady, Sophia.
Yes.
I'm going to make sure that everybody can find you through the show notes, the
Thank
links,
Yeah.
links in the show notes to your Instagram, to everything that you're doing that is amazing and people need to see. So I really
Thank you.
appreciate you, Kel, and it's been really nice to chat.
Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate you too.